Alright. What's up mga Chimek? It's your boy Sir Zylo once again for another video on our chemistry adventures. So for today, these are the following objectives, or for this particular video, we are going to recall the states and properties of matter, the thing we've discussed asynchronously and synchronously, and then differentiate elements, compounds, and mixtures. So if you haven't watched the video, please find the video in this channel about the states, properties, and changes of matter, because we'll just have a very short recap of this one. Then we'll try to classify the elements, compounds, and mixtures, the matter into this three different things. So without further ado, let's go. Alright, so far, we've ilagay ko ang circle dito yung video. So far, we've discussed already the definition of matter, the states and changes of matter, properties, and in this video, we'll talk about the classifications of matter. So in the states of matter, I'm assuming, you've already watched the video or attended our synchronous session. So we learned the 5 states of matter, namely solid, liquid, gas, plasma, and Bose-Einstein condensate. Now we've talked how to achieve the plasma state, or how to achieve the Bose-Einstein condensate state, and then we've learned also the changes that they undergo. So again, if you're still confused right now, please do watch both the recorded synchronous session and the pre-recorded videos on the states and changes of matter. And also, on our synchronous and even asynchronous, we've learned about the properties of matter. So we learned the physical and chemical properties, the physical and chemical change. More importantly, we've tried to differentiate intensive and extensive. So we learned that intensive properties are physical properties that are independent on the amount of matter, meaning they do not care if it's large or small, or how many it is or how few it is. Those are your intensive properties. On the other hand, the extensive depend on the amount of stuff, the amount of matter, or the amount of thing to be measured. So if you increase it, that extensive property will change. Now we've gave a lot of example. Again, please do watch the video if you're still confused with that topic. And this is the advantage of our online class. So to check comprehension in your mind, just answer, is volume an intensive or extensive property? Very good. No, that's an extensive property, because if you increase the amount of matter, the volume will increase. You decrease it, the volume will decrease. It will change because it depends on the amount of matter. Next, melting and boiling point. Very good. Intensive property. So no matter how many or how less a water is, its melting and boiling point will be the same. It will remain constant. And another example, density. Is it intensive or extensive? Very good. It's an intensive property because it's dependent on both the mass and volume of the object. So density is an intensive property. Right? There you have it. Now with the states, changes, and properties of matter. At this juncture, we're going to talk about the classifications of matter. So matter is classified, kaya ako chinap-chop yung topic because sometimes we get confused on the technical terms. So we have now states, changes, properties, and classification. So when we talk about classification, we are referring to the separating capacity of the matter itself. Can it be physically separated? If yes, it's a mixture. If no, it's a pure substance. And under it, may mga subtopic. So we'll get to it one by one. So, ayan. So example, in your mind or in your paper, if you have one with you, or you may pause the video, identify which one or which 2 or 3 or 4, which are the elements, compounds, and mixture in this jar. Right? You may pause the video. Alright, so let's check if you got the correct answer. So jar A, if you label it them A, B, C, and D, so si jar A, hydrogen, si jar B is water, nauna si D, si jar C is hydrogen and oxygen, and then D, hydrogen and oxygen din. No? So, the first jar is an element. No? Though, this seemingly like a combined molecule, these are only hydrogen atoms. So, it's an element. Compound, water siya. Ang water rather is a compound because it was chemically combined. No? It produced a new substance. The third one, nauna ulit si si C is a mixture, no? Hydrogen and oxygen. They're just inside the container without a reaction. So it didn't become a water so much as letter D, no? Kahit medyo madami yung hydrogen, kumonti yung oxygen, there's no chemical process involved, no? Meaning there's no new substance formed. They are just together in a container. So they are simply mixtures. So please do understand the difference between element, compound, mixture. And we'll get deeper than that. So let's chop the discussion on matter. Let's start with those that cannot be separated physically, meaning those are chemically combined or can be only altered inside the laboratory. So let's start with the simplest of them all, the elements. Elements cannot be separated physically, also cannot be decomposed. So these are your elements. So dito tayo mag-start. Hopefully you can follow the red font. Examples of elements are your copper wire, aluminum, your gold. Those 118 in your periodic table that some of your teachers in junior high would be asking you to memorize, from hydrogen, helium, lithium, boron, beryllium, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, etc., etc. I even memorized that when I was in grade 7 or first year high school. Elements are composed of only one kind of atom. So, halimbawa, when you say it's a pure gold, hindi yan yung nasa sentro. Pure gold meaning it does not contain any other elements. These are pure AU, pure gold. So, we can call that an element. A copper wire, if it's not an alloy or if it has no mixture of other elements, it's an element. So much as your aluminum foil. It's an aluminum element. So these are examples of your element. As long as isa lang yung atom, kind of atom rather, it can be multiple atoms, however, the kind or the type of atom is the same, we consider that as an element. So yan yung mga examples natin. So saan galing si element? Just a short review of where the element came from. For sure, you've learned this already in your Earth Science in the first few weeks of your grade 11. Pero kung nakalimutan na, let's recall. So in the beginning, after the Big Bang, so we'll assume that the Big Bang is the actual birth of the universe. There were protons, electrons. Skip forward, dumating yung time na nagkatagpo at pinagtadhana si protons and electrons. Diba? Sana all. It gave birth to the very first element, the hydrogen. And the process, it's a very long process. Eventually, the universe, were filled with hydrogen elements. So, wala pang iba, anything, it's just empty except hydrogen was there, And, the formation of hydrogen, became very, very fast. Sobrang dumami sila. The tendency, they compiled. They were compressed rather, And when they were compressed, nakabuo sila ng mga stars. Diba? Skip na natin. Ito yung mga elements na alam natin. So, una, si hydrogen, sobrang ang dami. Wala nang space kasi sobrang dami. So, ang nangyari is nagsiksikan sila at nagsiksikan to form this yellow thing. Hindi yun yung shape na may patalim-talim. It's just a circular clump of hydrogen gas, which we commonly know as star or stars. So basically, tandaan, ang mga stars, these are just a collection of hydrogen gas at first. Bakit at first? Because eventually, inside, the hydrogen, since nagsisiksikan sila, we have a term there in physics called nuclear fusion. Si electron ng isang hydrogen as electron ng isang hydrogen parang na-attract dun sa isang proton. Kung na-imagine, parang si hydrogen may partner na, si isang hydrogen may partner pa rin, parang inaagaw nitong isang hydrogen yung electron na partner ng isang proton ng hydrogen. So, if you can imagine, eto naman, parang inaagaw niya. Parang dalawang mag-best friend, pares may girlfriend, kinukuha niya yung girlfriend. Parang ganun. No? And that's nuclear fission para mas maintindihan lang natin. Or nuclear fusion rather. Fusion. So, eventually, because of that, they decided to just be together. So, let's stay together so that we can have them both. So, ganun. Parang kung sa tao ang sama nun, parang ang laswa. So, in the universe, yun yung nangyari, no? Inside the chamber, no? Or collection of gases, or inside the star, because nagsisiksikan nga sila, no? And there's an increase in temperature, therefore producing the second element with 2 protons and 2 electrons, the helium. Then, so on and so forth, nabuo si beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. So, the proof of this one, hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe as of the moment, then followed by helium and the other elements. So, basically, no, ang point lang naman dito, if, alam mo, mga pwede mong pang philosophical na sagot, gusto mong maging mayaman, 'di ba? Gusto mo ng gold, maghanap ka ng exploding star, or supernova, dying star, and then collect all the golds there. Question, bubuhay ka ba or makakabalik ka ba para lang kunin yan? But the point is, everything in the universe was given birth inside the star. So even carbon, no, the element of life, if you've later we'll learn that further, or in biology maybe this has been taught, kung walang carbon, walang tao. So carbon has been given birth into a star. So when someone says to you that you are a star, no, or you are a product of star, well, that's true. No, that's not figuratively. That's not just figuratively true, but that's scientifically true. So you are a star, no? Maniwala ka sa sarili mo na magniningning ka rin balang araw. Yeah, charot. Pero kidding aside, legit. No, we are all from a star, no, at some point, because the carbon inside our body was created very long time ago. And yan, maybe it can raise concepts like, does age really matter? Because carbon was given birth at the same era in the universe, and we're all made up of carbon, of the same structures of atoms. Mga philosophical thoughts. But let's go back to the basic. So baka masyado nang lumalim ang Gen Chem natin. So yan, it gave birth to the elements. So yun yung mga elements natin. So these are matter. So basically, there are 118 elements as of the moment. And we'll have a separate discussion on how amazing these elements are. Okay, let's have now the compound. Now, compound are still pure substances, meaning they cannot be physically separated. Ito naman, kung si element is made up of only one kind of atom, si compound is composed of 2 or more kinds of elements in a fixed ratio. So, iba-iba ang properties nila kapag iba-iba yung element na nag-combine. So, halimbawa, the most famous example for a compound is NaCl, or sodium chloride, or our table salt, or ang asin natin, di ba? Kasalanan, salt, di ba? Inatake. Sarot, baduyo nga talaga, Sir Zel. So, yan. Sodium, a separate element, a chlorine, no, another element, when they chemically combine, they form what we call compound, no? Meaning 2 or more elements forming no, a compound. So from 2 different kinds of elements or more. All right. So some example, or before the other examples. So our compounds are follow, no, they obey the Dalton's law of proportions. First is the law of definite composition, meaning always the same ang ratio nila. Halimbawa, ang H2O, ang water, rather, it will always be 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. Kaya siya H2O. When you have H3O, probably that doesn't exist. No? But if it exists, it's not water anymore. So a certain compound will always have the same ratio or fixed ratio. And law of multiple proportion says na pwede naman siyang dumagdag as long as the ratio will not be changed. Halimbawa, H2O is equivalent to H4O2, no, or H6O3, meaning the ratio and proportion is still the same. Another example is your carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Now, since they have different ratio, 1:1, tsaka 1:2, if we're referring to carbon to oxygen relationship, if you can follow, 1:1, 1:2, therefore, ibang ratio, it forms a different compounds. So, carbon monoxide, a very dangerous, poisonous gas. Same with carbon dioxide. How amazing science is. No, carbon, the element of life, oxygen, sustaining life, both a key player, key element in forming life. When you combine them, it becomes poison, no? It become a danger to our life. But the magnificence of the universe, no? If it makes sense. No? Moving forward, no, on our chart, now we go to the left side. Sorry kung medyo mabilis. Ayokong lumagpas ulit ng 30 minutes ang video. Or 40, no, mga 35 lang sana. So, yan. Sorry kung very spontaneous din, Sir Zel. Wala akong presenter view. So, ka-screen share lang ako. So, yan. We go to the left side, the mixture. Si mixture, as compared to the pure substance, these are your matters that can be separated physically. Later, we'll have some separating techniques in the laboratory. So, we'll start with the homogeneous mixture or our solution. Okay, so mixtures are combinations of pure substances. However, they are not chemically combined. Parang they are just joined together without a chemical process. So, under it are heterogeneous and homogeneous. So, these are some examples, but we'll dig deeper. When we talk about homogeneous solutions, or a homogeneous mixture, these are your mixture that has one phase only. One phase can be seen. No? We've learned already what a phase is. It's the structure of matter. So, halimbawa, itong apple cider, isang phase lang siya, liquid. You cannot see the apple there. So, therefore, it's a solution. Unlike here, I don't know if what this is, baka, chocolate, or it's a rock. No, you can see two different matter combined here. No? Parang itong dark something, and then the brown one. So, that's heterogeneous. No? You can identify the two things that are being combined. So, under homogeneous, there's only one kind, no, which is we call solution. Solution is a homogeneous mixture. Though we cannot see the apples in the apple cider by our naked eye, there's actually apples there, no, particles of apple when we use microscope. That's why here we use very small particles, meaning cannot be seen by the naked eye. No, there's no Tyndall effect. So what is Tyndall effect? The Tyndall effect is the scattering of light. So halimbawa dito, when ang example dito is an alcohol, which is we're all very familiar, if you pass a light there, no, light will just pass through, meaning you cannot see. No, itong nasa my left ko, you cannot see the light scattering in the middle, unlike the other one. So, we'll have the comparison later. So, that is your solution. Now, let's go to the other kind of mixture, which is a heterogeneous mixture. Meaning, yung sinabi ko kanina, makikita mo yung dalawang phase nila. So, under it, we have colloid and suspension. So, anong pinagkaiba ni colloid and suspension? This is a mere review, so I'm assuming na mabilis nyo makukuha. So, si colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. There are medium-sized particles there. Still, cannot be seen by the naked eye. No? So, si solution, hindi na natin makita. Very small. Medium, hindi pa rin natin makikita. So, it exhibits Tyndall effect. However, no, those medium-sized particles does not settle on the bottom. No, I mean, hindi mo makikita yung in Bicol rug-rug sa baba. Diba? The particles settling down at the bottom of your mixture. So, ang example nito is milk. Diba? Your cream, etc., etc. So, anong difference niya kay solution when we use the Tyndall effect or Tyndall phenomenon? So, ganito. Kapag solution, ito yung sa light. Pag mixture of water and milk, Ito naman yung mangyayari. So we did it in the laboratory, so para mas madali na inyong makita and mas ma-appreciate kaysa sa animation. So ito, alcohol. It's a mixture of water and alcohol. It's a mixture of water and the milk. So makikita mo yung scattering of light here. So solution, ang first one on my left, and then the other one is a colloid. Now, what's the difference between colloid and suspension? So, suspension, it's under heterogeneous mixture din. However, no, particles settle. Nagtitindle effect din siya, pero may mga particles kang makikita sa baba. Meaning, makikita mo yung dalawang pinaghalo. Halimbawa, lemon juice or lemonade. Diba? Yung si lemonade, pag nilagay mo, sa baba, makikita mo yung mga buto, or kung inalis mo naman yung mga buto, the pulps of your lemon will be there at the bottom. So, that's the difference between suspension and the colloid. And take note, hindi lang lahat ng suspension are liquid. Pwede din siyang solid. Halimbawa, yung pizza, 'di ba? Some will settle at the bottom, the crust, some are at top. You can actually see them. So, ganon. These are your suspension as long as you can identify the different stuff being mixed. So let's put what we've learned so far into practice. Now you may pause the video every time I say the example or the item, and then you may answer. So mayonnaise. Alright, very good. Mayonnaise is an example of a colloid. Muddy water. Sige, muddy water. Alright, very good. It could be either a colloid or a suspension. So, dati may nakalusot. The answer, of course, was supposedly colloid. No? Pero, kasi magiging blurry ang water. Sir, pag nag-stop na po yung rain, kung muddy water yan, or naghupa na, the mud will be seen at the bottom. So, it could become a suspension. So, the answer here are either colloid or suspension. So, I place suspension because on the long run, if you place it in the laboratory, yun naman talaga, magsisettle yung ibang lupa, no, the large particles at the bottom. Now, how about fog? Pause the video. Alright, very good. It's a colloid, no, because place a light there, no, the light will scatter. No? It's not clear like the atmosphere. So, it's foggy. It's like a milk in the sky, a milk in the atmosphere, so it becomes a colloid. Salt water or seawater. Right, very good. It's a solution. No? And Italian salad dressing, medyo social. Or sa tuya, sa atin, ano na lang, shake na may gulay-gulay. And obviously, this becomes a suspension. So hopefully, we can see the difference between element, element, compound, and then mixture. So later I'll give you an activity to follow this up. Alright. So Cracker Jack, bakit may advertisement? So comparison or comparing the mixture and compound, it both involve substances contain two or more elements. It can be separated still. However, ito si compound can only be separated by chemical means since they are combined by chemical means as well. However, si mixture can be separated by physical means. No bond here. Here, merong bond sa compound. And then, kay mixture, pwede mong halimbawa, damihan yung dressing, damihan yung rocks, damihan yung lemonade, and it still will be lemonade. Dito, sa compound, if you add more elements, the composition will be changed, therefore creating new compounds. So when we talk about compound, a certain compound, the composition is always fixed. Alright. So yan, these are your classifications of matter. So my task right now, put in the private comment or ano na lang, comment nyo na lang dito sa YouTube para naman may interaction, so that I can see that you're viewing. Is air a pure substance? If yes, is it an element or a compound? Or if is it a mixture? No, if it's a mixture, Is it a homogeneous solution or a heterogeneous colloid or a heterogeneous suspension? So choose among them, put it in the comment section, and place your argument. Okay lang mamali, wag i-delete, no, so that I can see some different answers. No? But hopefully you'll get the correct one. So this has been Sir Jello, now signing up. See you on our next episode. Peace out.